The issue of poverty in Hamilton is sometimes overshadowed by a narrative of urban revival and wishful economic growth. And hey, the housing market is in fact growing, but therein lies part of the problem. Hamilton has become part of what is known as the Greater Toronto and Hamilton Area, the GTHA, and that's because Toronto has become unaffordable. There is a trickle-down effect. People leaving the big city for mid-sized Hamilton. As a result, housing costs in Hamilton, although lower than Toronto, have risen. The average Hamilton homebuyer can now expect to spend the equivalent of 6 times his or her annual income on the purchase of a house, while the Canadian average sits somewhere around 2.5. Oh, and over 60% of households in Hamilton are home to only 1 or 2 people. There is, however, a viable solution to this, one that's been around for quite a while: laneway houses.
I like to think of it as the cities from the back to front or from the inside out, because you get to see a different part of a city when you're walking through the laneways than you do from the front yards where people are trying to put their best impression first.
Right.
So it's a lot more gritty and real.
Yeah. American expat Emma Cubbett found her calling here in Hamilton. She's worked on affordable housing projects for nonprofits for more than a decade, with a special interest in laneway homes, exploring how the city could change through this type of affordable, small-scale housing.
There's a long history of using these laneways for housing here in Hamilton, is that right?
Yeah, Hamilton had kind of its boom maybe 100 years ago. They needed workers' housing, and so laneway housing was built for that. It was a way that people who are often single can have good, affordable home.
Circa 1895, so
Yeah.
this is a long
People
history.
have been living here a long time.
Yeah. This is like the trendy tiny house movement like 120 years ago.
That's right, yeah, but with the historical precedent, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, right.
They're kind of hidden gems.
Yeah, it's kind of a little secret if you live here, right?
That's right, yeah. We're trying to bring about more of them and have them be a more integrated part of the fabric.
Yeah.
Problem is they were forbidden in the 1950s with zoning.
Every laneway house still standing in Hamilton was built prior to 1957. That was the year that the city implemented a bylaw that prohibited construction of more than 1 dwelling per lot. It was part of a nationwide effort to regulate zoning in urban centers. Unsurprisingly, it completely halted what could have been a great alternative for housing in the city. You see, since the 1950s, the average family size may have decreased, but the scale of new homes has only increased. The quantity of new single detached housing in Canada has doubled over the past few decades, and the buy-in cost makes home ownership simply unaffordable. Now, thanks to innovative thinkers like Emma, Hamilton has legalized laneway housing as a pilot project in 2 downtown wards. Hopefully, the tide is turning.
The goal is to create incremental intensification so we don't only have the condo towers as the option for density.
That is kind of wild that back in the 50s they didn't want density, right? And
That's
now
right.
it is something that every city so desperately tries to attain, right?
Yeah,
to get
that's
back
right.
to the density in the urban core.
It also provides actually affordable rental opportunities. It's really important that we have housing that's still affordable for artists and for people who've lived in these neighborhoods all their life. This is one of our responses to gentrification, basically. Yeah.
Cool. Is it mostly converting existing structures?
It's easiest to convert an old coach house. They have so much character already, but majority of the new laneway houses will probably be new builds. They can go from kind of following the vernacular of the neighborhood to something that's really contemporary. And here is the coach house conversion that I wanted to show you.
Oh, okay, right here, the brick.
That's right. And now the Selways are working on converting into Hamilton's first permitted laneway house in the past 70 years.
Where's the door?
There's going to be a door off the lane right here,
Yeah.
but for the moment, the access is off the front.
Oh, and they're hard at work here.
Uh-huh.
Hello.
Hey.
This is a cool building.
Yeah, it is pretty neat.
Yeah.
Well, there was a stable, apparently with 3 horses, each of whom had a window to look out of, is the story.
How old is the building? Do we know?
It was
1800s, late
1880s or so, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sean and Sherry are now adding a laneway house to their home with the help of their daughter Zoe. Together, they're setting an example for their community, proposing better ways to implement affordable housing.
As we age, we need to, be wary of living in a city where you can age in place, and that's what we want to do.
Right.
And it's right downtown, right
Tavern
on
is right over there.
And
You
there's
got the tavern.
It's a great tavern,
Yeah.
great bands play there, yes.
But really, you're just moving home, right?
They warned us about that.
All the fancy talk about smaller footprint, you're just moving homes.
Fail.
Hail. So how long is this going to take? When do you think we're having the kids come home?
We need to get the complete permit situation sorted out.
Yeah.
We're working with Emma because we think the laneway housing thing is a good idea. Having the first example work its way through the system
Yeah.
is kind of more interesting to us.
Oh, yeah.
For Sean, converting these homes is a way to pay it forward in the neighborhood, paving the way for others to do the same. I am pretty impressed. Sean's in his 70s, and he's been involved in every step of the renovations. That's what I call family spirit.
Affordability problem is ascending the income threshold so that you have a lot of millennials that are quite unhappy about not being able to buy a place. We need to keep the people that have been living here for many years and are being priced out, particularly of apartments. We need to retain about some of the 5,000 students that McMaster graduates every year. We need to keep the artists and musicians. We need to provide affordable housing for them to make this like a livable place for everybody rather than for a smaller group. Right?
Yeah.
With the condominiums that are being built in our city, they're often not intended or not appropriate for families, but laneway house conversion such as this could definitely have a smaller family living in here. And that benefits the community in many ways. We're just kind of making things the way they used to be again, really.
Yeah.